on the potential that there will be light precip if we ended up in an RTLS. They looked at that. Chances of thunder showers are very low, and I believe that's an acceptable risk.
Yo, Darius Britt here. We gotta talk about how to film alone. To clarify, we're talking about how to film by yourself if you don't have any crew, and how to literally film yourself. As in, you don't have actors and you don't have crew. I do it often. I've gotten really familiar with it. There are a ton of reasons why you might find yourself going in alone. You might live in an area where there isn't much of a film community. You might have friends who aren't reliable. The list goes on. It can be difficult, but it is not impossible. Expectations. You've got to manage your expectations. Can you make a Hollywood blockbuster by yourself? Probably not. Can you make an awesome short? Yes. There are certain things you can do and certain things you can't. But if you embrace the limitations, there are a ton of freedoms in that. We're gonna talk about working completely alone first, and then we're gonna talk about filming without a crew. Let's get into it.
We are clear. No working no issues. You're good launch. Okay, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And Fergie, you heard those words, so we'll get you going here shortly. Good luck, guys.
Well, when you're filming yourself by yourself, this can be challenging. You need a camera with an articulating LCD screen, preferably one that flips out where you can see yourself in front of camera. Makes it so much easier to check yourself in your framing. With some cameras, you can download an app which allows you to use your phone or tablet as a monitor. You can avoid squinting from across the room at the flip screen. You'll need to grab focus using a coat rack or a stand or something. I've used all sorts of different artificial stand-ins to set my focus. I usually record a sample video to make sure everything looks good, then I start recording. You can forget about doing any pan or tilt shots or pulling focus when you're in front of the camera. You're gonna have to get more creative with what you can do. Focus on story, keep it simple. Give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. Start with the resources that you have available, then write the film based on those resources. Makes your life a whole lot easier. Look for concepts that are funny and relatable. Think of things that only require one person, like painting, writing, camping, etc., etc., and then build a story around that. Or think of things where there should be more than one person and spin the concept. Build the premise off the fact that it's only one person doing it. An example would be Jerry's Game from Pixar, where an elder man plays himself in chess. Example. I filmed the Working with Will short pretty much by myself. I had a friend help me for about an hour, but 80% of it was me shooting myself. If you've been on my channel, you've probably bumped into the short already. If you have, you can skip it. It's only about 3 minutes long. I just want to start off by saying I am a huge fan of your work. Like, I grew up on Fresh Prince. I don't think you understand. Like, that's the only reason why I got this hat. And West Philadelphia, born and raised in the playgrounds where I spent most of my days, chilling out, maxing and relaxing, all cool. I agree. We should just get right into it. What I'm really looking to do is I want to change the whole like filmmaking tip game. I feel like other YouTube channels, they're content with just like throwing examples of stuff out there, but I kind of want to do more than that. And I feel like me and you know, if we put our heads together, like, I feel like we can make history. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I agree. We should just like take it like one step at a time. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll just focus on writing it first. Good talk. Good talk. I don't think we're going to be able to pull this episode off well. I let you down. I let myself down. I let us down. And maybe I expected too much. I don't know what it is, but there is something that I'm missing, and I can't figure it out. But I know I am missing something. I feel it. You're right, I can't afford to think like this. I mean, you kept going after Wild Wild West, right? So if you could do it, we could do it. And then it hit me. I'd been going about this all wrong. The answers were right there in front of my face the whole time. I just couldn't see it. How could I have not seen it? I think Will knew. He must have known. He said so much without saying anything at all. I think maybe he wanted me to discover it for myself. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great episode. If you notice, most of these shots are static. Static shots don't have to be boring. Make it fun. Really compose them as best you can. Setting my shots in focus took the most time. There were plenty of instances where I'd take a take and then I'd rewatch the footage only to be unhappy with the framing. It's exhausting, but you get used to it if you do it enough. Needless to say, having an articulating LCD screen made this process much easier without one things get a little more tricky. The pan at the very end, I actually did by myself. I was on a 50mm lens and I was close enough to the actual tripod head to just turn it with my hands.
And for our entire test team, we have 1 minute and 15 seconds of hold time remaining here at T-minus 9 minutes before we will pick up the clock. STD ISO. Go ISO.
Okay, so maybe you've got actors, but you don't have crew. You're doing everything in this instance, right? You're the sound guy, you're the camera guy, you're the director, blah, 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 blah. So how do we pull this off? Storyboarding. If you're still new to filmmaking, then you should probably storyboard. This will really help you pre-plan which shots you want to use. It also forces you to pre-visualize the film and how the shots are going to fit together. Draw a rough sketch of each shot, write little notes. It doesn't need to be perfect so long as you understand what you're looking at. Just, do whatever works for you, don't overthink it. You do this type of thing often enough, and eventually you'll reach a point where you don't even need to storyboard anymore. You can kind of just see how everything works together in your head. You should do a shot list as well. Write all of your shots down because you're not going to have somebody over your shoulder reminding you of what shots you need to get. Shots. You're shooting alone, so there is a limit to the type of shots you can get. You can rule out dolly shots, jib shots, etc., etc. You're not going to have the crew to help you set these things up. Keep it simple: pans, tilts, slider shots, and well-composed static shots. Framing is your best friend. Focus on getting strong compositions, use the rule of thirds, but don't be afraid to experiment. Take crazy angles, get weird abstract shots. Just because a shot is static doesn't mean it has to be boring. Close-ups are your best friend. They're easy to light, easy to frame, and it's easier to mic your actors for audio. Two shots aren't so bad. Things can get a little tricky because of sound. You'll have to be tactful about how you plan to record the audio. Plan out who's speaking when so you can get the best audio possible. Now, if you're doing wide shots, use minimal dialogue. Make it easy on yourself. Miking actors can be tough if you don't have wireless mics. If you have to re-record lines, it's easier to do one line instead of 12 if you catch my drift. If you can get away with zero dialogue in your wide shots, even better. Story. If you know you're going to be shooting without a crew, you need to keep the stories simple. No car chases, no epic shootouts, etc., etc. If you get too ambitious too soon, you'll be pulling your hair out when it comes to shooting. If you're not used to working alone, start small. Start with 2 actors in one room. Then work your way up to 3 actors in a couple of locations. Get comfortable with that first. The better you get at working alone, the more you can take on. Location scouting. If you have access to the location you're going to use, bring a friend and take pictures. Snap photos of the shots you intend to get using your friend as a stand-in. This will help you pre-visualize everything further, and you can get a feel for any natural lighting you might have to work with. If you don't have time to plan before the shoot, it's still a good idea to take photos and pre-visualize a few minutes before you actually start filming. The more you plan in advance, the better. Lighting. If you're watching this, you probably already know how important lighting is. Make your life a lot easier and work with as much natural lighting as possible. Film in places with big windows if you can. Stage actors and scenes near windows. If you have a lighting kit, you can do a lot with just bouncing a light off a ceiling or a wall. If you don't have any lights, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Focus on audio, performance, framing, and composition. Do the best you can using natural and practical lights. Film grammar is everything. Knowing when to pan, when to tilt, where to put the camera, when to go for a close-up. If you don't know this stuff, Study movies. They're the best textbooks. Still shots and replicate them for your films and see what effect you get from them. Filming. Think like an editor. Consider how the footage will cut together. Sometimes you'll have to change your shots because of time constraints, lighting, any number of reasons. Always think about how the new shots will work in the edit. You'll get much better at this with experience. Do not forget audio. Do not forget audio. Do not forget audio. When you're doing everything by yourself, you'll be amazed at how easy it is to forget audio. Don't forget audio. Audio. Camera microphones are notoriously bad and they're useless if the camera is further than 4 feet away from the action. You're gonna want to use an external mic. There are a few setups you can use. First option, mounting a mic on top of a camera. This setup is as bare bones as it gets and the audio is still gonna sound a lot better than your camera's mics. If your actors are more than 3 feet away in any given shot, you're gonna have to find another way to record the audio or you're gonna have to re-record their lines later. Second option, mounting a shot mic on a mic stand and connecting it straight into your camera using an 1/8 inch adapter. You'll need an XLR to 1/8 inch adapter and probably a stereo adapter to change the mono signal from the mic to a stereo signal. I have used this setup often. I used it on Slapboxer, I used it on How I Got an STD, I used it on Working with Will, used it on Boss Man, and a number of others. I'm 6 feet away, but this is what it sounds like when we're recording with the camera's audio. Right now I'm 6 feet away from the camera, but the mic sounds really close because it is. The benefit to this setup, you can get your mic much closer to your actors. You don't have to sync audio with video in post. There is one setback though. You may have to denoise the audio because the camera preamps aren't the best. If you're completely new at this, you don't have to worry about denoising. But if you're trying to do more professional sounding work, you're probably gonna need to denoise it. Denoising is not perfect. It's much better to get very clean sounding audio than to have to repair the audio you get, but you know. Your third option, mounting a shot mic on a stand and connecting it to a sound recorder. You can move the mic as far away as you need because it's not connected to the camera. And you're gonna get the best audio quality. However, if you're working alone, it's a pain reminding yourself to press record and stop on the sound recorder. You have a very high likelihood of forgetting, trust me. Plus, you've got to sync sound later in post. We're still 6 feet away, but this time I'm recording my audio using my cell phone. When you've got tight close-ups like this, head and shoulders, it's really easy to hide a cell phone just outside a frame and record the audio. Or you can have one of your other actors hold their cell phone to the actor they're acting opposite of, and you can kind of sneak audio in that way. Filming. When you're filming, remember to jot down whatever wild sounds you'll need to record later to fill out the sound design. We're talking doors closing, footsteps, breathing, etc., etc. Sometimes I'll just ask my actors, hey, do you mind doubling as an assistant? There might be some things you can write down for me. Usually they're pretty cool about it, especially if they see you busting your hump. If I see something that I need to re-record later on, then I just tell them and they can jot it down so I don't forget it. Microfilms. If the thought of filming something by yourself intimidates you, then start small. Do not shoot a short film right away. Shoot small scenes, shoot microfilms, work your way up to a short film. Shooting without a crew is an entirely different skill set from ordinary filmmaking. So shooting small manageable projects allows you to experiment and learn the skills you need to become proficient. Example. So I got together with some acting friends of mine. They were having an improv session. We decided to just shoot a microfilm for practice instead. This wasn't planned, so I don't have a crew. I didn't bring any lights with me, but I brought a camera, a mic, and a tripod. So we did it. I don't know what to call this one yet. I don't think we ever came up with a title, so I think I'll call it
Get up. Where are you right now? Are you gonna help me?
Und sah die Nacht in deines Herzens Rahmen.
Get your head in the game.
Ich scrolle nicht, und wenn das Herz auch bricht.
A few things. So again, this was not a planned shoot, so there was no script. We just came up with the story on the spot. I spent about 30 minutes before we started filming to plan out shots and pre-visualize how this would all cut together. I just had the actors stand in for each other, didn't worry about lighting, I just focused on framing.
Yeah. So stop right there, stop right there. So that's one mark, and then just pace back about the same distance the other side. Yep, there's another one. Okay.
I used my Canon 60D, I used only two lenses, the 10 to 18 zoom and the 50mm prime. Also had a tripod and a hot shoe mic, that was it. In this shot and this shot, I chose to play with the framing and give this scene an off-kilter feel. Definitely did not use the rule of thirds here. So we're shooting super wide open so that we can actually utilize some of this practical lighting because I did not bring my lights. In this scene, I'm about 6 feet away from the actors, so the mic on top of my camera is useless. I cheated and just had Kate record Harris using my cell phone. We're only seeing head and shoulders, so you don't see Kate's hands anyway, and it worked great. Here's the scene with my camera's audio.
Are you gonna help me?
And here's the scene with the audio from my cell phone.
Are you gonna help me?
Obviously, a lot better. So remind me, we're gonna need to get wild sounds of all the bathroom stuff up close. So don't let me forget that. I had one of the actors jot down the wild sounds I needed to re-record later so I wouldn't forget.
Wild sound for sink faucet running. Okay, wild sound, shovel dig into the ground.
The AC was also on in this shot. We were moving so fast, I didn't even notice because we were running out of light, so I had to re-record the scrubbing sound later, and I matched it up as best I could in the edit. I had to re-record all the audio from this shot because the AC was on. Here's what the original sounded like.
Walk out. Walk out, Kate.
And here's what it sounded like after I re-recorded all of the sounds you hear in this scene using my cell phone.
Get your head in the game.
Well, there you have it. The more you do this, the better you get at it. I hope this video helps. It might seem impossible at first, but I promise you it gets better. I'm at the point where I can plan out and shoot a microfilm in 2 hours, but again, it's all about learning the workarounds, practice, 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 until you become efficient. I will leave links to the equipment I used to film this episode in the description section. Well, I do believe that's all that I got for you. I also do one-on-one chat sessions, so if you are interested, bring your filmmaking and YouTube questions. I will leave a link in the description section where you can get more info on that. Thank you so much for watching. Deeper Down.
They would make a total of 6 stops on this traverse, collecting samples from large rocks,